And now we move to the next paper presenters we have. So actually you will be getting maximum 10 minutes for each paper presenters. First of all, I invite Dr. Chandrasekharan Praveen, former principal IAC Thrissur, Kerala. He's an independent researcher. Sir will be presenting the theme on the punch perception of Germans 100 years ago, a critique. Thank
Good
you.
evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, let me thank the organizers, particularly Dr. Anis, for inviting me. I must confess that I am not able to speak, read, or write in German, but I like German literature and I like to know more about Germany, and that is why I'm here. And this is a study which I've done some 5 years ago, but I did not have a platform to make a presentation. I'm happy that finally I found a platform. This is the Punch magazine, which was popular in UK 100 years ago. It was not only read by the common people, even the royalty used to read. Actually did a physical examination of these magazines, and my presentation is going to be a critique of that. How did the Punch perceive the Germans? I'll quickly tell you something about the background and all these. Okay, given the time constraint, I'll be very brief. This is the background. This is German Empire, 1914. And in 1882, there was an organization called the Kulturverein, and they were advocating colonialism, okay, expansionist policies. And not only that, in 1906, Darwin in the UK said that this policy of the Germans was creating anxiety and apprehension to neighbors. It was written in 1906. This is the Punch magazine cartoon. You want to conquer the world. So cartoons started appearing. This is the 1915 version. Okay, a ruler, an emperor of the world. Okay. And UK is very near here. I hope you can see this. And in the 1911 census, they found out that there were over 50,000 German immigrants in UK. Okay. And then what happened? In 1914, the First World War broke out. This is the background of my study. Okay. And if you look at newspapers, there are plenty of coverage of the war. But of popular magazines, the perception of Germany is very rare. I said popular magazine like the Punch. Okay. Now, my objective is to identify the British perception of the Germans during the First World War, particularly in the Punch magazine. Okay. What is the method? I'm beginning with the assumption that cartoons represent valid perceptions of people and events. That's the basic assumption which I'm beginning my study. I did a physical examination, as I said earlier, a number of magazines, old ones. And this is what I did. I tried to summarize the cartoon, contextualize it, and then try to infer the message. And throughout my objective, I was monitoring what I was doing. Finally, I tried to corroborate what I did with other historical documents so that I can maintain accuracy. This is my method. There are 9 cartoons. For ease in comparison, I've classified under 4 heads. Cartoons depicting sheer dislike of Germans, the European perception of Germany, German military strategy, and German leadership. All these were subjects for the cartoons of the Punch magazine. Okay, this is number 1. This was published, as you can see, on 17th of March, 1915. The German army, the uniform, and they had a helmet, you can see that mentioned here. What to do with the German helmets? And this is what the caricaturist does. He suggests several uses, as you can see there. You can use a flower pot, you can use it at the fireside, you see it's in an ashtray, the waiter can use it. And so they're making fun of the whole, the uniform. But then you see, if you look at another way, this was a very good helmet in the sense that it could protect you from sniper fire. And not only that, once the war is over, you dismantle the army, this helmet is going to be used for several other uses, not like the British. So they're making fun of the German helmet, but then actually it has one real good use, you see. That is number 1. The second one, this appeared, as you can see, in 1916. The man you see here left is supposed to be Shakespeare. That was a Shakespeare centenary that year. And whom you see on the right is actually Martin Luther. Okay, and what is the conversation? This is the conversation you see here. The repudiation. This is what you see is written here. Martin Luther is telling Shakespeare, I see my countrymen claim you as one of them. You may thank God that you are not that. You know, probably during that time, some people in Germany, those who are lovers of literature, were appreciating Shakespeare. And when during the wartime, you don't want that to happen. It could be that. And the recent studies have shown that it was he who set the Reformation, and Shakespeare was actually witnessing it. And recent studies say that Shakespeare must have had loyalty, Catholic loyalties, and he must have come into confrontation. But we don't know what is the real truth. But then maybe the bunch was trying to tell us, look, literature can do what religion can't do. Maybe that may be the message. I'm not very sure about this particular cartoon. Okay, here's another one. This was published, as you can see, in 1915. You can, if you hope you can read here, civilization. This is a representation of a lady. You can see her clenched fist here. And this man, he is holding something. You see his representative, and he is called the outcast. The Hague Convention. So I checked up the history, and this is what they say. The 1907 convention and the Hague Convention, they decided that we should not anymore use weapons of mass destruction. For instance, you shouldn't use missiles from balloons. Okay, and not only that, you should not use gas, the poisonous gas, and expanding bullets. But what happened was, in 1915, the convention couldn't take place, but instead at that time, a women's convention against war happened. So probably this cartoon is depicting how the whole civilization was against the expansionist policies of Germany. Probably here there is some kind of truth in it, but we don't know. It is wartime, and it could be propaganda. Okay. And here's another one. This was published, as you can, in 1916. The background is this. Germany wanted to invade France, but Belgium decided not to permit them to cross over Belgium. So what they did was they just conquered and went ahead. And then this cartoon came up. Now, this is what please look at this. Truth mirrored in German art. Probably in art, what was depicted may be some kind of a propaganda. You can see the German officer marching off. You see this German during the snowy season. They're helping out. He has given his raincoat to these school children. Look at them grinning. So this is what the sentry's sacrifice. Gives overcoat and tunic to the Belgian little ones. But then you read this. The humanity of Kaiser's troop has been substituted by the imperial German censor for a very offensive picture. We do not know whether this is propaganda. Even art was also propaganda at that time during the war. Whether this was really happening, whether the German soldiers were amiable to the people, we don't know. But the truth is, Germany did cross Belgium. Okay. Now here's another one. This was again published on the 10th of February 1915. You can see there's some kind of a conversation with a German officer and the camel. It's called the Riddle of the Sands. The Turkish camel is in where to, and the German officer says Egypt. And the camel says, guess again. Crossing the desert, even the camel knows it is going to be tedious and it could result in death. But then, though it's trying to make fun of it, the real truth is that probably the British were afraid of the expansionist policies of the Germans now to Africa. Now they're moving from Europe to Africa. So this is a gentle way of making fun of the German expansionist policies. Here's another very explosive thing. This is April 19, 1916. And this, as you know, he could be a Moor, could be a Muslim, but this man, and look at what is written here. Love me, love my pig. Captured documents show that the government had schemed to stamp out Mohammedanism in East Africa by force through pig breeding. Probably this, the veracity of the fact that whether such a thing was captured from the German, we don't know. But then this could be possible that people do employ such kind of strategies. You see, here's another one published in 1916. The almanac is an annual version of the Punch. So you find This is a 1916 version. See, this German soldiers are trying to get metal strips from this gentleman. From here, the wordings are really funny. Dog's iron drinking vessel being commandeered. Here from this boy, the trumpet, the tin trumpet is being taken away, and a vacuum. No, these are all their German hunt for metal. You know what metal is used for artillery. Probably the British were afraid that these were going to end up as war machines. So this one gentle way of making fun of the of the Germans, but then actually the truth was the British were really afraid. Here's another one. You please read. This happened and this was published in May 5th, 1915, and this is death. This is the case. He's about to raise a toast. Willful murder, that's the title, and say to the day he was about to celebrate, and immediately death comes in of reckoning. You know what it is? 1 week before publication of this particular cartoon, the ocean liner was sunk by the German submarines. Now, looking at it, we all think, oh, the Germans are really cruel. But the fact is that the British Army had successfully tried to prevent goods from reaching the Germans, and Germans were starving. And at the same time, rich people in Britain were traveling in ocean liners. So naturally, during war, what they did, they targeted the civilians. It happens during war. But that is never mentioned here at all. You're just simply saying that the Germans are cruel. But think of the British trying to block food being sent to Germany and the Germans suffering. So this is tit for tat policy, but nobody knows this. Here's another one, and this is again in May 19th. And what happened was, you hope you can read this. The great feat of the Deutschland breaks through the blockade. The blockade was successfully done, but what happened was, at one point of time, Germany had to give up and then sign the treaty. But then, what the British were trying to project is that the German leaders were all trying war glory, trying victory. And so they're trying to make fun of the whole thing. So out of the limelight, I think I should carve out a fresh carrier as one of the submarine guns. So this is how they're making fun of the German enterprise. Now, there are certain limitations to my study because, cultural perspectives keep changing every 100, and in 100 years, a lot must have changed. And possibly there must have been some error in my own interpretation. So what's the further research? You can cross-check the accuracy of the interpretation with the historical documents. You can try that. That's future research you can try. And finally, this is my message. You see, throughout, if you see, there is somehow the message being given that the British Army and the Navy are superior. They are power to be reckoned. Of course, Germany must have lost the First World War. But then immediately Second World War comes, and meanwhile, they were also thinking of Aryan supremacy. And finally, we know what happened after the Second World War. Britain is nowhere as a world power, supremacy. That is my message. There are all these cartoons. You see, this is the mindset of the British media at that time during the war years. Okay, these are some of my references. Okay, I suggest you please read my paper. This is my acknowledgement. I got these documents from this college where I studied, this government college. It is 100 years old. They have an antique book collection, which is a minor research project. And I publish all of them in this particular website. If you're interested, you can visit this. I would thank the UGC and the college authorities for permitting me to conduct this study. And of course, all of you for listening to me patiently.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar sir. What a wonderful presentation. And I am really stunned with this caricature. You have done wonderful work. Actually, you might have studied German. You'd have done, I don't know what to say that. So wonderful presentation you have done with the caricature.